Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. In the last part, we continued through the Shadow Temple, and now we're relatively close to the end of the dungeon, but not quite. There's only about 2 rooms, not counting the final stretch of rooms that we haven't been to yet. One of them is this one, which is entirely optional. We got more giant skull pots here we can blow up with bombs. However, none of these contain keys. They contain, I think, rupees, more rupees, and I think maybe some ammo stuff. The more important thing in here is that there's the final gold sculpture left for the temple. This room can be good if you're low on money, because I think they drop like 40 rupees or something along those lines. The problem is, we have a similar issue to the rotating jar in Goron City, wherein throwing the bombs into rotating pots can be kind of hard to do. Yeah, there's ammo stuffs. That first one definitely just dropped some bombs. I don't know what it is about throwing the bombs in this game that just feels so inaccurate. Maybe it's the arc, maybe it's the limitations of the game's control scheme, especially on the N64 controller. I don't know. With that said, our actual goal here is to get to the room in the north, as that is where the boss key is located. You're going to want to get Din's Fire out, by the way, as it's going to be useful in the next room. Technically speaking, the second time it's required, though I think you might be also able to use fire arrows for this, unlike the room that we needed to get into the Shadow Temple. We have a closing and wooden spike wall that looks kind of pathetic. It can be lit on fire with Din's Fire. Again, fire arrows might also work, I'm not entirely sure about that. I want to say the 3DS version made that spike wall more ornate looking in some regards, or at least like it can't be taken down by just pushing against it slightly, but I honestly can't recall. I want to say if you get crushed by that, it's similar to when you get crushed by the ceiling traps or fall into a bottomless pit, though I think it just counts as a void out. You take some damage, not instant kill, so on and so forth. There's not a single instant death trap in this entire game. But now we have the boss key, which means we can just head right to the boss fight, which is thankfully about 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms away, technically. And you're gonna need the hover boots to access the boss fight, rather than do anything in the boss fight itself. It can help during the boss fight itself, but it's more so for getting to the boss fight than doing anything in the fight. I think it's actually the only dungeon in the game that has that little caveat, now that I think about it. Because I think every other dungeon item you use during the boss fight. Huh. I don't think I've ever thought about that before. Odd. And in order to get across, you need to shoot the bombs. I want to say this is the only time in the game where if you shoot bombs with your arrows, they explode. I think there's a hint that leads to that, either by talking to one of the walls or talking to Navi. I honestly can't remember because I've just known to do that for so long. I do appreciate the set pieces, though, which is one of the reasons this is one of my favorite dungeons in the game, is that it's just got so many set pieces and it's very memorable looking. Not too easy to get lost in either. It's a relatively linear dungeon. Also, you may have noticed there were recovery hearts up there in the air. You just need to play the Song of Time for a Song of Time block to show up. And now just navigate the precarious platforming with the hover boots, and you're at the boss fight. I think you can technically get across that without them, but don't quote me on that ever. Alright, and we're go. Oh god, hover boots, why? Boss of the Shadow Temple is Bongo Bongo in his 2 hands. The way this fight generally goes, you shoot arrows at the hands to stun them while they try to swipe at you in various fashions. And when they're both stunned, generally speaking, Bongo Bongo is going to charge at you with his eye open. At that point, when he's charging, you shoot an arrow in the eye to stun it and then attack it for massive damage. With that said, even though it looks like you need the Lens of Truth for this, Bongo Bongo is always there in the center, as with all Lens of Truth items. He's always technically there, you just can't see him. So as long as you know he's there and which direction he's coming from, you can just turn off the Lens of Truth if you have it at all and just completely negate the threat of the boss fight. We are on a giant setup, I guess more a singular giant bongo for this fight though. And the annoying thing about that is that whenever he beats his hands, you do jump up and down. And if you ever get knocked off the bongo, it's not a void out, there is a rim below the drum of acid that damages you, but you can climb back onto the bongo from. So you're never in danger of any real damage here. In fact, honestly, it's one of the easiest boss fights. In fact, dare I say, second easiest boss fight in the game, the only one easier than it being King Dodongo if you're using Deku Sticks. But with that, that's the Shadow Temple out of the way. We already know who the sage is this time for once, though. The boy with the noble Zelda's ocarina. As I expected, you have come. I am Impa, one of the Sheikah. I am Princess Zelda's caretaker, and I am also the sage who guards the Shadow Temple. We Sheikah have served the royalty of Hyrule from generation to generation as attendants. However, on that day 7 years ago, Ganondorf suddenly attacked, and Hyrule Castle surrendered after a short time. Ganondorf's target was one of the keys to the Sacred Realm, the hidden treasure of the royal family, the Ocarina of Time. My duty bound me to take Zelda out of Ganondorf's reach. When last I saw you as we made our escape from the castle, you were just a lad. Now I see that you have become a fine hero. There's nothing to worry about. The princess is safe now. Soon, you'll meet Princess Zelda face to face, and she'll explain everything. That is when we, the 6 Wise Ones, will seal up the evil king and return peace to Hyrule. I have to stay here. You go to Princess Zelda's side and protect her on my behalf. Now I'll put my power, which should be helpful to you, into this medallion. You received the Shadow Medallion. Impa awakens as a sage and adds her power to yours. Please look out for the princess. And compared to the other dungeons, we don't even get like a nice little cutscene of things after that, restoring to normal. No, we're just back in Kakariko. Because I guess the only problem Kakariko really had was the giant shadow demon, which I think was supposed to be Bongo Bongo. There's a bit of oddness when it comes to implying what was going on there. With that, though, we only have 1 medallion left to go. And if you think about where we've been throughout the world, you might realize there's only really 1 region we haven't explored on the map, period, let alone as child or adult Link. Where is that, you might ask? It's just a simple ride to the west. We need to get to Gerudo Valley. Now, the thing I should note about this next segment is that you can do this even before the Shadow Temple. The big thing is you either need Epona or the long shot in order to do this section, which is one of the things I mentioned earlier in the game, that you can do the dungeons in largely any order you want. The only things you need are the fairy bow in order to do any of the later temples, really, because they all require it. The hook shot / long shot, but you need the hookshot particularly for the first 3 dungeons and the long shot for the 4th and 5th. Besides that, as long as you get the appropriate items, and you might need some more health, should the case be, if it's a more dangerous place for you, you can do the dungeons in largely any order. That's honestly where randomizers come in strong, as long as you know what items you need to clear a temple, you can do things really, really out of order. With that said, the last time we were over in Gerudo Valley's area, you might remember that it was during the trade quest. We got the poacher's saw from the guy who leads the carpenters, who has a name that I can't quite remember. We need to jump over the fallen bridge that they're supposed to be repairing, and we already got a bit of a story explanation for what we need to do next when we last talked to this dude, but let's talk to him one last time as a brief little reminder. Hey you! If you're going to the fortress, would you mind finding out what my workers are doing over there? Sure thing. But it's an important timing that I'm here at this particular time of day, as there are 2 gold sculptulas on this half of the bridge as adult Link that we can only get at night. One is just behind the tent here, and the other one is just across the way on the other half of this landmass where there is a stone arc. It's on the back of that. Notably, though, you might notice there's a bunch of rocks right there in the corner. If you, I think, use the Megaton Hammer to destroy those, they reveal, I think, a chest that contains like 20 rupees or something along those lines. And now for one of my favorite segments of the game, though I should probably make it daytime before we progress. And I probably should have waited a bit longer after turning it daytime than I should have here, as that means we don't have music for the intro shot of the next area. Whoops. Oh, well. I am making it daytime for another reason, though. It's mostly just so I can see things a bit easier in this next section, because it's time for more stealth. Welcome to Gerudo Fortress, and after I get the music back, this is a return to the stealth element we haven't seen since Hyrule Castle's first visit. There are Gerudo guards constantly roaming the premises, and if you get into their relatively generous view cones at times in your favor, you get thrown into a prison that's actually right about above where I am now. The only ways you can escape that prison, because they don't take away your stuff, are with warp songs, or I want to say the hook shot, or it could just be the long shot. I forget exactly which. Thankfully, if you play your cards right, you never have to get caught in here. Our goal is to roam around the various hallways, not highways, god, there's no cards in here, and find the cells containing the carpenters. Hey you, young man over there, look over here inside the cell. Hello there. I have no idea where you come from, but you must have a lot of guts to make it past all the guards around here. All my fellow carpenters are imprisoned somewhere in here. If you can get us out of here, we'll pay the favor somehow. But be careful, there's sure to be Gerudo guards somewhere around here. Oh, watch out! Whenever you find a carpenter, to first rescue them, you need to face a Gerudo guard who is going to outright attack you. However, you need to be a bit careful of that attack right there. You see, for the most part, the Gerudo's attacks are just swinging the sword, nothing too bad. The only times you can generally attack them are either when they're backflipping or right after finishing an attack. But you need to be very defensive about their little wind-up attack, that, like the one she did a moment ago, and I think she's about to do in another 10 seconds or so. As if that attack hits you when you don't have your shield up, you are knocked unconscious and thrown into the cell I mentioned a moment ago. So you need to play this really defensively. Keep your shield up at all times, go for hits only when you see openings, or you could just go all in aggressive and try to just dodge out of the way. The general rule of thumb is whenever she's charging her attack, just back up as much as you can, which is a lot more than you'd think because it has surprisingly high range, and then try to go in for a jump attack as a counterattack to get as much HP down as you can. I want to say there's a minor sound cue for their HP where they start breathing more the lower their HP gets, but I don't have a way of backing that up. Additionally, I also think the more of them you face, the more aggressive they get, but I also don't have ways of backing that up. It could just be my mind playing tricks on me, which, let's face it, is a very high possibility, despite my relatively young age. And for beating each one, you get a small key allowing you to open the nearby cells, though you can technically save it for the next one, I believe. Did you come here to save me? Oh, that's just swell. I'm Ichiro, the carpenter. We were really interested in joining their all-female group, but they locked us up like this just because we're men. We don't care about the Gerudo anymore. They're so rude. 3 of my fellows have also been captured, so please help them escape too. What's that? The all-female group wants to remain that? I am shocked and appalled that they're being correct, because you guys are idiots. I love these carpenter characters just because they're that stupid. Also, now they know how women have been treated throughout the rest of history. Yeah, especially, I've been listening to one particular podcast, I think I mentioned before, the Dollop, more recently. I think I mentioned that last in the Messenger. Where the further in I get, the more I realize humanity's always been stupid. And also assholes. Getting back to the game, though, if you ever find a Gerudo guard that's in your way and you want them out of your way, just shoot them with an arrow. It doesn't kill them. They have generous hitboxes. They're just knocked unconscious. I swear, officer. Whenever you see cells, you're generally near the next carpenter. There's only, I think, like 5 cells, or maybe 6, but only 4 of them have the carpenters in them. Hello! I have no idea where you come from, but you must have a lot of guts to make it past the same dialogue again. All my fellow carpenters are in prison around here somewhere. If you can get us out of here, we'll repay the favor somehow. But be careful, there's sure to be Gerudo guards somewhere around here. Oh, watch out! Future Gerudo guard fights are going to be sped up just because it's the same thing over and over again. Also, this is totally a Zelda song, right? Played on a Zelda stage in Melee. And I forget, does it still play on a Zelda stage in Ultimate? Is it an option for Hyrule Temple and all that? I would laugh if it was, just for the appropriateness of it all. Alright, what do you have to say, Mr. Tidbits? You're a cute kid. Thanks for coming to save me. I'm Jiro, the carpenter. These women are so scary, I'd rather work as a carpenter than join them. I can't wait to say goodbye to this place. 2 of my buddies are still being held prisoner. Will you please get them out of here, too? Now, my question is, how do these lumbering fellows get out of sight of the Gerudo once they leave the fortress, as they are everywhere? If anything, once we rescue the 4th one, we should learn that they were all recaptured into one cell and then have to go break them out of that one. But no, that's not how the thing goes. They all somehow miraculously escape back to the tent. And I'm not sure what happens if you go back to talk to them at this point. I've never done that. Getting around the fortress on a fresh playthrough can be pretty mazy, but it's one of those layouts you really get used to really quick. Also, you may have... weird little continuity thing. These guys are actually the carpenters who are building the shooting gallery in Kakariko. That's why they're running around Kakariko as a kid. But now they're just here because I guess they're supposed to be rebuilding the bridge, I think is the lore explanation. And there is an odd thing you can do that I never show off. Once we finish this section and rescue all 4 of them, you can head over to their tent and the running man from the mask side quest will be there. You could challenge him to a race to, I think, the entrance of Kokiri Forest, but he'll always beat you no matter what by less than a second. Thanks, boy, you're fantastic. I'm Saburo, the carpenter. Have you seen our boss, boy? He's probably worried about me. I have to get back to him immediately. One more of our workers is still a prisoner. Please save him. Now, don't do what I'm about to almost do and go through the door he's going through, as that goes through that goes right through the front door right next to some Gerudo guards. You instead want to head the opposite direction. Back the way we came, as there was a choice of paths here we could have taken out of the previous door. I went down there to get Saburo, but you could also have turned right here into this room. And I think it's this room that in the 3DS remake, there's a little offshoot that if you destroy some wooden crates by rolling into them, you actually reveal a poster of some concept art from Skyward Sword. Odd, but it's a nice little touch. I like when Nintendo just does those little, hey, here's a little Easter egg thing. It doesn't mean anything, but it's cool. This is the one point on the inside of the Thieves Hideout where you really need to be careful, as it's the only place where they'll really blindside you with the Gerudo guard inside. Most of the other Gerudo guards, there are ways around, either just taking a different corner or hook-shotting up to some rafters. That's the only one that is directly in your path no matter what you do, I believe. And here's the 4th carpenter. He is going to say the exact same thing in the exact same order because they're all the exact same character model just with different hair. In fact, I'm convinced they're all quadruplets. That poor mother. I'm kind of surprised as well that for the final Gerudo Guard, they don't break out like a different color scheme that has a different attack. Mind you, that could just be modern gaming convention setting into me, which this is not a modern game. This game is over 20 years old now. So things are a bit different than they used to be in the late 90s. Alright, what do you have to say? Based off the numbering scheme, I'm guessing your name is Sanjiro? I was afraid you were going to forget about me. Now I'm free. Thanks, I'm Shiro the carpenter. Shiro, no, I'm wrong. Oh no. For rescuing me, I'll tell you something interesting about the desert I overheard the Gerudos talking about. They said in order to cross the haunted wasteland, you'll need the Eye of Truth. The Colossus is on the far side of the wasteland. Okay, now I'm going back to my tent near Gerudo Valley, so drop by sometime. You may find something helpful there. Bye! I want to say for rescuing all four, the bridge is now going to be repaired to Gerudo Valley as well. Oh, hi! I've seen your fine work. To get past the guards here, you must have some good thieving skills. I used to think that all men, besides the great Ganondorf, were useless. But now that I've seen you, I don't think so anymore. The exalted Naburu, our leader, put me in charge of this fortress. Naburu is the second in command to the great Ganondorf, king of the Gerudo thieves. Her headquarters are in the Spirit Temple, which is at the end of the desert. Say, you must want to become one of us, eh? Alright then, you're in from now on. Take this. With it, you'll have free access to all areas of the fortress. And we get the Gyarados membership card. We can get into the Gyarados training ground and their hideout. Additionally, we will no longer get thrown in jail for just wandering around the fortress. We're an honorary member on all formats that brings. From now on, you're free to come and go as you please through the gate to the desert. You'll find the Spirit Temple, where the exalted Naburu lives, out there in the desert. Alright, that's our next destination. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 30, we're going to be doing some brief exploring around Gerudo Fortress, getting a few items that we can while here, before heading off towards said desert, and towards our final main dungeon. See you guys then.